Sorry. All right, start over. Now we're recording. Code Extreme day one. So like what I said, this is a project that we had scoped, but I didn't tell you guys before because I didn't want it to bias your choice. So we do have some information that will help with our discovery. So I just dropped in the chat. So I want to complete discovery. Make sure, we understand all the user stories. Everybody understands user stories, the data model, etc., etc. We're going to scope. This was previously scoped, but we're going to rescope it again, just to ensure that, we want to know what this would cost, time and money. So we're still going to scope. Then if there's any diagrams we need to draw, we're going to use sketchboards, any flow diagrams, data flow diagrams, g.o.a.t., your folks, typically want a data flow diagram. So anything that needs to be done, we'll do that as well. Wireframe. So I'm not quite sure what wireframing tool, g.o.a.t., you guys want to use. And the purpose for doing wireframe versus going straight to high fidelity is so that we could start working at least on laying things out before you are finished with a high fidelity prototype. So it means there's a lot of research going on really fast, right? And then finally, we have to add all the acceptance criteria tonight. So that will be myself, Paula, Philip, Malate will be feverishly adding all the acceptance criteria so that tomorrow we can push the button, generate code. Design will be for one epic will be done. Front end folks will be able to start, and we're just on the move, right? Any questions as to the flow? All right, sounds good. I feel like I'm forgetting one thing, but no. So the schedule is going to be very fluid. So keep an eye on your calendar, and if you can't make a meeting, just drop it in the Slack, please. So that if you're critical for your role, we know how to reschedule or move around. So I know this is a bit disruption to our normal workflow because we still have regular work to do. We just started a new project last week, and I just got word over the weekend that we're probably going to be starting 2, if not 3 new projects tomorrow. So some of you are going to be getting another project assigned. So it is code extreme, regular work, growth work, and this, but I think we can get it done. And so if, like I said, mental health first. So if you're feeling stressed, I don't want you to break. So please just shoot me a message. And, I'm smiling, but I'm serious. I've been through these things before. So I've kind of, we affectionately call it the death march, when a product is due and you have, not much time to do it. I think Authentify has been through this process before. So please do take care of yourselves. And, let me know if there's anything that you need to take a break, take a pause, whatever it is, just let me know. All right. Without further ado, let me share my screen. All right, so here is CLEPT. So it is slightly bigger than we thought as I went through the requirements. So everybody is now able to see this, right? I see everyone added to the project. So if you cannot see this, please let Paula know right now. Paula, also add John Bosco as well.
Okay, we'll do that right now, Kino.
And it's 25. Yeah, it's about 25 of us. Yeah, add John Bosco to everything, actually, Paula, like all the way through. All right, so CLEPT is a platform that allows users to see reviews and ratings on landlords and tenants. as well as other real estate professionals. This other part, other real estate professionals, is not being done for this because that's the C, which is contractor, electrician, and plumber. So we're not doing that now. So like Yelp meets Carfax meets Glassdoor meets Zillow, CLEPT provides a clearer view of real estate people that can't be found on typical background checks. Of real people, sorry. Provides a clearer view of real people that can't be found on typical background checks. So that's kind of the synopsis, right? What we're going for. So design folks, this should help us. It's like Yelp, in that Yelp is a review platform. It's less like Carfax. I think Carfax is a platform here in the US where you're buying a car and you want to see the history of that car before you buy. But certainly it's a lot like Yelp, certainly a lot like Glassdoor, because Glassdoor is a platform where you can rate your employer, whether you're present or past, and the employer, I think, can respond. But it's done in this anonymous sort of way. That's kind of cool. And then meet Zillow, because Zillow is about properties, And so the decision has been made on this platform whether we're going to get a list of all the properties in Rhode Island and upload them to the system, or it's going to be each landlord is going to be uploading their property, or a combination of both. So I think it's going to be a combination of both, where we're going to upload properties and landlord can claim a property similar to what they do with CLEPT. And for those, similar what they do with Zillow, sorry. And for those who are on the 3C project, it's similar to somebody claiming their childcare center. All right, so the three main roles that we care about is admin. There is no company admin for this product. Yeah, there is no company admin for this product. So at first, we are going to design it where the landlord was treated as a company, and under the landlord's company, they could add other, tenant admins and so forth. But, I kind of went against that process. Please push back if you think otherwise. I don't think it's necessary to treat the landlord as a company. I mean, most platforms, they have a company piece, like Heroku or so forth. And I think as an upsell, another feature, a V2 feature, that will be fine. But I think, if we don't have to manage that sort of information now, why even bother? I'm open to dissent on that one. If anybody thinks otherwise. All right. So no one disagrees. All right, cool. So that's it. So we have a lot of user stories. We have about 50 something. So this feels like it's going to be a medium or a large project. But as I looked at it, a lot of the components are components that we have done before. So there's a messaging component. There's an ads component. We've done that sort of stuff before. There's account management. There's reviews. I don't think we've done reviews recently, but it's very straightforward. All right, so let's just start from the top. I may have to reorder these things. I'll try my best to get this sorted for you all before we started, so you have some time to review it. So we did our best, so sorry about that. So hopefully this will be good enough. So let's start from the top and go through. Stop me if you have any questions. All right, so as an admin, I want to be able to create, edit, archive landlord or tenant accounts. Hey, Paula, you want to just do this parallel with me? for the ones that, remember we used to use the numbers for labels. So we can
Yes.
just go through and
Oh, okay. Let me just
change the
quickly
label. Yeah,
get in there.
so we can just change that. Okay. We might repoint it, but you know, since we already started. Thanks. As an admin, I want to be able to delete any account that has no associated data. Again, this stuff is auto, you know, g.o.a.t.SaaS will generate code for this. As an admin, I want people to view a list of all user accounts. Admin be able to view the list of any user account, details of any user account, I'm sorry. As an admin, I want to be able to toggle an account active, inactive. So when we toggle an account active, inactive, it is just simply setting profile. I think there's a profile status inactive and the user role is active and the user account, the user record is also set to inactive. And then as a landlord or a tenant, I want to be able to create an account using my email address. I suppose a bonus would be able to create an account using some other platform. You know, I can see this being really good to use Facebook or Google, but you know, I just add it to the notes. All right. So if you see highlighted bubble, so you know that's a comment, okay? And if you see these lines, you know there's a note there. All right, so if you can create an account, you should be able to close an account. And if an account is closed, reviews would not be removed. And so I have a note here for Frosty to verify that. You know, if I close my account, should all my reviews be deleted or should it stay? So we'll verify that. Then as an admin or landlord or tenant, I want to be able to view the details of my user profile, and the same group should be able to edit their user profile. And that's pretty much it for account management, right? Pretty straightforward account management stuff. So then the next piece is property management. So if we think about the first class citizens, we have the users, we have the property, we have reviews, and we're going to have rentals on this as well. And the thought for having rentals is, I don't remember who brought it up last time, Quinette maybe, the validation or verification that the landlord is the landlord, the tenant is the tenant, and yes, they have reason to see each other's information. And you know, so we avoid scams, right? We avoid landlords adding fake reviews or somebody just saying something bad about a tenant because of somebody they don't like and they happen to be a landlord and they know their tenant is moving out. And so the landlord goes and does something nefarious, whatever it is. So the rental piece also helps, and it also helps the revenue model as well. So here we go. So as an admin, I want to be able to create, edit, archive a property. So admin can just enter a property or upload properties via a CSV file. And so I'm going to add a note here to say if so existing properties, we can match them based on address. If an existing property is claimed, then it should not be updated. Good.
Okay.
All right. Okay, as a admin, I want to be able to delete a property that has no associated users and or data. So what does that mean, associated users? So, you know, so no, so it's not claimed, you know, no landlord, so no associated landlord or tenant. No. So no associated landlord or tenant, it's not claimed. No rentals, no reviews. I think that's it. All right. As an admin or landlord or tenant, I want to be able to view a list of properties. At first, I thought, should this be, a nice Google map, put stuff on the map and so forth. But we know how Google is with their charges that can go through the roof really quick. Using GCP, we could use Mapbox. But I figured just to simplify this, the point of the property isn't to geolocate the closest property. The point is reviews. So I think a list of properties is fine. You can search by address, right? So search fields, address, and I think we can filter by state and zip. So we can assume it's a US property first. Later on, we could internationalize the property. We might do that at the start, but just to keep it simple for Code Extreme, we can just US addresses. Next version, we can internationalize it, right? Because we can certainly see this be used in other countries like Nigeria, Jamaica, wherever we can use the same platform. Or he can use the same platform. All right, search, filter. I think that's it. Any other property? We can also probably have like certified. So by certified means, this property has been claimed by the landlord. Are we good? All right. I expect this part to be a somewhat easy, but stop me if you have any questions, please. Jeremiah, go ahead.
No, I said we're good.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry, Ken.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mean location?
I'm sorry, say again.
By state, do you mean location?
Oh, so by state, so think about the US address system, right? So the US address system is address one. So like our office is 166 Valley Street, right? And that will be address one. Actually, let me put up here. That's a good question. So address, example. So 166 Valley Street. This will be considered address one field. Then address two field would be building 6M Suite 103. Then the city would be Providence, and the state would be Rhode Island. And the zip would be 02909. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Yeah. So there is a way to internationalize addresses, though. Google has a whole process for this. That the database fields it can pretty much be used anywhere in the world. Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's a far leap to go from US-based address to an internationalized version of addresses. It will be a migration. All right. So same group can list properties, same group can view the details of a property. And as an admin or landlord, I want to be able to, oh, I did this twice, create, edit, archive a property. Yes, I did this twice. So we have where the landlord can also add a property. Why is this done twice? So landlords can edit properties that they own. Landlords cannot archive a property. When a new property is created, admins should be notified via email. When a new property is created, the lat long is also saved. Use the US Postal API to verify the property. If the property is already on the system, then execute the claim user story. So then this number 10 is not needed then. So let's move this up. Let's delete that one. And let's move this one up as well. Nope, this is fine. So admin can change as an admin, I want to be able to change the owner for property. So that's kind of obvious, right? So someone's claiming a property. As a landlord, I want to be able to take over my property listing. Take over can be a bit, let's change the words on that. I want to be able to claim my property listing, right? So landlord must have an account. Landlord will claim ownership. The property status will change. Email will be sent to an admin. A landlord can claim a property that was claimed by another landlord. So other people will get emails as well. And the verification process will be manual. Yeah. We could have where with the claim, there's you can upload documents, but we'll see if we need that later on. And then this one is changing the owner of a property. So this is probably part of the claim process. And we'll see when we're doing acceptance criteria if we can merge these two, because this might just be a scenario under here, where one scenario is, claim, that one scenario is accept, and the other scenario is reject. So I'll just start those scenarios. Claim and accept. All right. So cool. So then we have favorites. So as a landlord or admin, landlord, or tenant, I won't be able to save, unsave a property to my favorites. I'm just gonna change that. Add, remove a property from my favorites. All right, and then you'll be able to view a list of your favorites, the same group. All right, so any questions so far? We're almost halfway there. Okay, so as a landlord, I want to be able to rate my tenants. So let's look at this one, the notes I had here. So this would be like Yelp meets Uber reviews, meets Airbnb, meets Glassdoor, right? So a landlord will be able to match a tenant based on the name, phone or email, and property address, so by the tenant's name, phone and email, property address, we are not searching by social security number. That was a thought. I'm really hesitant about storing information like that. We don't want this to be exclusive or preventing entities that do not have a social security number,
Missed
for
the
whatever
board
reason,
international break after the
for whatever reason. So we just leave that out. There are scenarios where the tenant is not on the system. So if that's the case, a new tenant record would be created. And when the tenant creates a new account, we should check again against non-account profiles. And then the other scenario is if the tenant is on the system. So we just have to account for both those scenarios. The actual rating, like what are the categories for ratings? Those are created by admin. So we look at that when we get to the data model. All right, so as a landlord, I want to be able to view tenants' reviews once they have completed an application. So this is saying that, again, to some of the privacy concerns we had before, is that a tenant should be free to look at any landlord, right? They can, look up a landlord, see if that, they're the ones browsing. But a landlord shouldn't be able to look up any tenant. They must have a specific reason for looking up that tenant. And one way to ensure that specific reason is to say, okay, landlord, you're looking up a tenant, which means the tenant is applying for tenancy. So have them complete an application on the system. That will give us a verification process to make sure the tenant who the tenant is. And and that will give them we'll be able to say, yes, we know this is the right tenant, and be able to give a proper review. And the landlord, of course, is not going to be able to look at the tenant's past addresses, because again, that's none of their business. But they can just look at past reviews, or maybe maybe it will be just city, or I don't know, probably not past addresses, just past reviews. Yeah.
Hi, Kino.
Okay.
There's a quick question. So are we saying this platform is going to be used for people to rent? Because I thought it was basically supposed to be a review platform and not a renting platform. The moment people have to start submitting applications for renting, then I think we've already shifted out of the scope. I don't know.
Yeah. So that is a good point. When we're talking about it, when I was talking about it with Frosty, rental was a part of it, but not for Code Extreme, because we didn't talk about it for that. But the reason I'm bringing it back here, when I originally talked to him about it, rental was a part of it, but we didn't talk about rental for Code Extreme. But why rental would be a good part here, at least the part of rental being the application submittal, is that it gives this point of contact to say you are authorized to view a tenant's profile. Otherwise, we don't have a way to say, hey, you are authorized to view my profile, unless I log into the system and I give the tenant permission, or my logging into the system and giving the tenant unless the tenant logs into the system and gives a landlord permission. And it's the same thing as saying, well, I'm logging into the system and I'm applying for this tenancy, and that is my permission. So the other pieces down here where we have the whole rental application component, that would push to a V2. That would be out of scope.
Okay, just to follow up on that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think shouldn't we rather give a user the opportunity to decide, okay, I want my profile, my reviews, my this to be public, or I want, basically, nobody's going to be able to see any details about any user, right? Apart from their reviews. And I think reviews are meant to be public. But okay, maybe we can even then limit it and say, okay, even if they are not public, like why not like say, but I don't know. I'm just trying to find a way to cut out the application piece. I feel like that is extraneous.
Yeah. You see, the thing is reviews. Let's talk about this because this is really important, privacy wise. Reviews, if reviews are made public, then we run the risk. I don't even know how Glassdoor is doing this with a public review. If the review is made public, then your business is all out there, including where you have lived. And nobody needs to see reviews about you unless they're renting you an apartment or renting you a house, renting you a property. That's the only reason they need to see your review. Landlord, on the other hand, their reviews need to be public because they are publicly advertising that they want to live someplace, or that they're looking for tenants, and tenants should know, just like you're going to work at a company, the same premise of Glassdoor. But the other way around, though, it shouldn't be public. But I'm open to processes as to how we can give the landlord permission to view a tenant's profile.
Okay, how about we do something like the sharing a document kind of thing? So, hey, you want to rent an apartment from me? Can you give me access to your, what's the name of the app again? To your CLEPT profile.
CLEPT account.
And then you
Okay.
share me a link to your CLEPT account. I see it,
Yeah.
and you can block me at any time you want to. That's it.
Okay. So give me access to your CLEPT account and I
Yeah.
can see your review. All right, that'll work. And then that way we can carve out the whole application piece for V2.
Yeah, exactly. Without having to bring that in, that's going to be very expensive.
Mm-hmm. All right, that makes sense. Anybody else have
So
any? Go
several
ahead.
things we can do. I'm just thinking,
Mhm.
we can make it by default, right? That a user can only view, a landlord can only, a user's reviews and profile are not visible to anybody, except he explicitly makes them visible. So you can share your profile with individuals by probably sharing with a user account. So probably another user or a landlord, right?
Mm.
Or you can decide of your own accord to make your reviews public and your profile public. It's up to you. It's your business. Well, you defined it explicitly by yourself, right?
Mhm.
So that way nobody needs to come ask. But if you don't want that, then you can easily just say, okay, I just shared my profile with a single person. And at any point in time, I can take back that access. It's basically all in your hands to control.
Yeah. All right, so let me write it this way. So a landlord may only view a tenant's rating if the tenant shares access or gives the landlord access or makes their profile public. Landlords. And then we can put that as a V2. Yeah. All right. And
Actually thinking it's not a landlord tenant thing necessarily. You may also want to share your account with another person who is also a tenant for some other reason or whatever reason, or just for some reason.
yeah, that feels like an extra feature for an unknown cause. Like I don't know the from a business case, I can't think of the value of that. Like why would that tenant share their review with another tenant? Because tenants don't
Okay,
review.
so let me give an instance, right?
Mhm.
So for example, in a subletting case, right? So hey, I have an extra room in my apartment that I want to give to somebody. Hey,
That's a good
can I see your
point.
profile?
Yeah. So in that case, the tenant becomes a sub-landlord.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the beauty is, let's
yeah,
not
yeah,
think
yeah,
about
yeah.
it as he becomes another landlord, because that's going to complicate it. But the point is, people should just be able to make their profiles accessible to
To other
any
people.
other user
Now that
that they
makes sense.
just grant the access to.
That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, so Frosty's gonna look at this as well, so I have to write it so that it also makes sense to him. So tenants. Tenant may also give access. I have to call out the rules just to make it clear why we're doing what we're doing. Access to another. This is necessary. It's off.
Hi, Kino.
Hey, Connect.
Hi. So I think I object to what he's saying, right? So I'm thinking, right? So if we are saying that tenants could sublet to like other people, doesn't that then um, breach like a contract between like tenants and then the landlord? Because I'm assuming that there's like the reason why they have to do like all of those checks are for like things like security reasons and all like that, right? So why would a tenant sublet, let's say because it has an extra room or something? Is this something that can be done?
So you bring up another good point. So if a landlord, and actually Frosty brought up a case like this. So a landlord rents a apartment to somebody, and some landlord may say everyone who lives here has to be on the lease, right? When I was in college, that was the case. Everybody had to be on the lease, and then that would be fine. The landlord would be the one responsible for doing this tenant check on CLEPT. However, some landlords might allow subletting, legally, like, hey, you can sublet all you want. I trust you. You're going to be responsible for that person. And in that case, what Ituna mentioned here will be valid. But what happens if the landlord says everyone has to be on the lease, but someone decides to add somebody in and not tell the landlord? Or the landlord says, I don't want my water bill to be too high, because here in the US, typically the landlord pays for water. Yeah. So I don't want my water bill to be too high. I only want to lease this place to 2 people. So the 2 of you are coming here. No subletting. And that's also a valid case. And so if we allow what Itunu is saying, then we're allowing this loophole to happen. So what about this as a consolation for the two? Is that if a tenant gives access to another tenant, that on their profile, when a landlord is able to, okay, start over. A landlord has access to a tenant profile. And when that landlord has access to the tenant profile, the landlord is also notified whether that tenant has given access to another tenant. Not saying who, is not saying, no other case, but it just that's noted on the account. That way the landlord can say, I noticed that you have given somebody else access to your account, or you have access to another tenant's account, and they can have a conversation on that, So it's not stopping the subletting, but it's also adding peace of mind to the landlord that they know that something may be up. What do you both think about that?
Kino, I think we've blown this thing out of proportion, right?
Mm.
The reason why we brought up subletting was it is just an argument for the possibility of you having to share your account with somebody else.
Mhm.
Okay, whatever. I just want to show my friend, hey, look at my raisins. You understand? So
Well,
we are not basically looking at the entire thing. Like over here, you're sharing your account with somebody doesn't mean you've sublet already to somebody. So me sharing, for example, okay, you want to give me your house, right? I decide, okay, I want to rent Kino's house. I share my account with Kino. Let him look at it. Don't forget, Kino is only looking at my account to see information about me. So basically, me sharing my details with anybody is just for them to see information about me. It doesn't matter what the use is, why they are seeing that information. It could be that I just want to show my lawyer, hey, see, this is what people think about me, right? Or I want to show my girlfriend, this is what people think about me, right? It's basically just, this is what the reviews say about me. Whatever is then the use case, it's none of our business technically, right? So having to go into the details of subletting, the reason why I mentioned subletting was it was just an example. You know, you asked for a valid reason why, a business reason or business context in which you will need that. So that was just an example of such a context.
So I hear what you're saying, you know, I hear what you're saying, and the actually attorney reason is also a good case. But if it's a case of your attorney, you can log in with your attorney and show the information. Case of the girlfriend, kind of irrelevant for what we're doing. We kind of have to protect the landlord, and we do have to protect the landlord. So it will be either, it will have to be one of two cases where a tenant can't give access to another tenant. Because, you know, any landlord, I've been a landlord before, in you know, chunk of you probably have as well. You will want to know why. Why, I mean, yes, it's none of your business if it's some of the cases you mentioned, Itunu, but, you know, it can be used, because it can be used to facilitate subletting, then we're creating an opportunity for something to happen that the landlord doesn't want to have happen. And that is my only objection. So it will either be where we're saying, for the scope of what we're trying to do, that considering subletting is going to take this beyond our scope and we just drop it as a V2, or we just say tenant can only give landlord access. And so just hearing the conversation, it feels like we probably should just drop it to a V2, because it will probably, you know, the deciding vote should be Frosty on that one. Yeah, so I'll just make the decision for him on this one, and we can add a comment. Yeah, so it won't, we're not losing anything, but we're just keeping it as simple as possible. So can we live with that, Itano and Quinette?
Sure, Kino.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
All right.
Mic check.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, so I think I'm a little bit confused. So let me just kind of present the way I understand, you know, this concept, right? So there's a landlord, there's a tenant, and the landlord has a house or an apartment that they want to rent out. Yeah. And as a tenant, I can come here, then rent the apartment, and I can give a review, you know, like rate the landlord, and at the same time, the landlord can, you know, rate the tenant as well. Is that what we're building?
Yeah, but the reason for that is because the landlord wants to make sure you're not a bad tenant. And the tenant wants to make sure the landlord isn't a bad landlord. That's the underlying reason. So everything should be built on that foundation of trust, establishing trust between landlord and tenant.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you've addressed this already, but I'm thinking, right, for a new user that is a tenant, newly signed up on the platform, no reviews, nothing, and I want to get an apartment on the platform, how then would the landlord verify that I'm a good tenant?
Yeah, and that is a business problem that we won't solve with software, I don't think. Because if your brand, because let's say day zero when this is launched, there is no data on the system. Yeah. So that will be, the CLEPT, that company, their job to talk to their existing landlords, landlords within, there are different organizations, associations that I think he already has lined up to use this. So existing landlords that he knows can start adding their information and start adding their tenant information as well. And then just through marketing, then tenants will start adding their information as well. So I think it will start with land properties, then landlords, then tenants, until this thing gains some momentum. But that will be the business problem to solve.
So you don't think there is some sort of like user problems with it?
User what?
Like user experience problems with it?
With not having any data on the system?
Okay, at that point, right? Let's say they begin to talk to like their potential users, right? And then they get like a few people to get on the app and all of that, right? Subsequently, somebody from just say take Obina as an example. Obina just relocated to the US, right? And then he hears about this platform and then he's looking for an apartment, right? So they tell him about CLEPT. Now he's an entirely new user. There is no way, and he's coming from Nigeria, so he has no documents or anything from the US or anything, right? So how then would a person like that use the platform?
Okay, so remember to Intunu's point with the scope. So when we voted this, we did not vote in the concept of it being a rental application platform. So here we do have user stories for the landlord can put their apartment up for rent, and Obina will be able to search looking for rentals. But this is not what we're doing for this scope. What we're doing is Obina used apartments.com or some other platform and Craigslist, and he found an apartment that he wants to rent. Then he goes to CLEPT to check on the landlord to see what kind of landlord he's going to be renting from. Right? So that's how Obina would use this. Now, Obina contacts the landlord. Landlord's like, okay, cool. I'm going to check you out. I'm going to do your background check, all that stuff that landlords do, but I'm also going to check you out on CLEPT. So Obina, the landlord goes in, looks up Obina. Obina has a brand new account or no account, and it just doesn't come up on CLEPT. He's not there yet. And that's a real fact that there's nothing we can do from a software perspective. It will just be after this platform gains enough momentum and there's enough information on there. So yeah, if he's coming from another country to this country, unless the two countries are on the platform, there's no way to verify that. And then the landlord will just not have the information they need on CLEPT and will have to get it from another information, some other source. But now, once Obina rents the apartment, now the landlord can add Obina's information to the platform. And my assumption is that their marketing process would have to encourage landlords to pass it on. Maybe give them, I don't know what kind of incentive they could give the landlord to have the landlord enter their tenant information. Make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Yeah, does that answer your question? That answer the ready question?
Yes, sure, it does.
Sorry. So based on the last statement, when you're talking about like them having an incentive for the landlords to add tenants profile, so does it mean that landlords can maybe create profiles for tenants instead of tenants being the one creating the profiles themselves?
Yeah, we said that up here. Which one was that? This was 20. So we said that up top where the landlord, I want to be able to rate tenants. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like the rate tenants, not necessarily like rating. Oh, okay, I missed now.
Yeah. So if a landlord is rating a tenant and they're not on the system, then yeah, they're creating a profile, not an account, but a profile. And so now let's say, let's fast forward, Obina is moving, right? So, and Obina never used the system. So Obina's landlord added Obina on the system. Then the next then Obina hears about, hey, I remember CLEPT, I worked on this. I'm going to add myself to the system. The system should match Obina, so we have to figure out, well, what does that match mean? But the system would match Obina, and it would just use the same profile and create the account, the user account. And so Obina and the new landlord will be able to use the system.
Okay, so there might be a problem with that in the sense that we might, okay, so for example, if, like you said, we don't know the data or like how we're creating the profiles or what we're using to create the profiles. So if my landlord creates a profile for me using an email account that belongs to me or that he thinks belongs to me, right? So if I'm creating a new account on CLEPT and I discovered that, or maybe like my relationship with my landlord wasn't great, and I'm trying to avoid that, so I create like a new account with a new email, right? And like I'm coming to the platform as a different user than the profile that was created for me. I think in that case, we're going to have, I don't know how I want to like, manage that, right? What I would have, well, I don't know, but I think just to make this simple, just a suggestion anyway, right? I'm a tenant, this is a landlord, right? I read about CLEPT and I want to have my profile on CLEPT. Landlords know about the platform. They want to have their own profile on the platform as well, right? If a landlord and a tenant are connecting, right? We have a feature where, okay, so the tenant and the landlord have connected. So which means that this tenant rented an apartment from this landlord, right? And only then would the landlord be able to like rate the tenant and the tenant be able to rate the landlord. And I actually feel this rating should probably sorry. So I feel this rating should probably be public, right? The only thing the only reason why we might not want to make it public is if it contains like sensitive information. Because I'm thinking of a scenario where I'm a landlord and let's say like 5 or 6 people are interested in the same apartment, and I have to wait till the 5 of them, I have to send a request to the 5 of them separately, and they have to accept my request, share their profile with me, instead of me just, oh, what's your CLEPT username? Just go to the profile, check the ratings, right? Then if I want to proceed, maybe there'll be a button to just request like their personal info or just, make the whole arrangement official or something. I think that'll kind of reduce some overhead and just make it a bit straightforward.
Yeah. So what you described works great for the happy path, right? Good tenant, good landlord, or good tenant, right? Or a tenant that's like, yeah, I'm fine. But for a tenant that is legitimately a bad tenant, and the landlord wants to leave a review for that tenant to warn all future landlords, then there's no connection that may be made because they left on bad terms, or even the other way around. The landlord is legitimately a bad landlord. Like Frost's example, where he had to evict someone, evict a lady from one of his properties. It went to court, and it turns out that she's been evicted 14 times prior. Now, that's something he would have wanted to know up front, and we don't know the circumstance behind her continuous eviction. It could be a good legitimate reason, But let's just assume for for my point that it's not, that she's just not a responsible individual, right? Then you might think that she could possibly, be tempted to create a whole new persona for herself. So it makes me think then that the story that we had up here, and we didn't put much detail into it, this one. Be able to create an account using my email address. I did this research for, remember Green and Go, Paula, one of those projects, where there is an API out there where we can, hey Frosty, you're just in time, answer some questions for us. Yeah, there is an API out there that for within the US context, it wouldn't work for Obina coming from Nigeria to come here. Actually, it probably would, because now he's in the system, that can verify a person. So it's like a validation API that you pop it up just like Stripe. They enter their personal information and the system validates that, and it tells you, yes, this person is who they say they are. And I think that might be needed for this. So I was going to add a note, and then first we have a bunch of questions for you.
Okay.
So the basis of what we're the questions here, Frosty, is what we had documented here. Well, what we had scoped or what we had voted on for Startup Week, it's just the review portion of CLEPT, right?
Okay.
Now CLEPT has other components such as the rental property management, and which is a bigger piece, and the smaller piece was ads as well, having ads on the platform. What we're finding is that the rental property component might be a bit more than, the voting may have gone differently if we had chosen to add that piece. And so I think it would still be of benefit to you if we have the platform, and as a version 2, we add the rental management component. Because there's lots of pieces, related to that. There's a application, there's the possibly signature and all that stuff. So we're tabling that component. So that's the first thing. The second thing, what we were just debating about is the whole rating of tenants and seeing the reviews, right? We use reviews and ratings interchangeably. Like who can see what? So one thought, or one conclusion we got to was the landlord, their profile is public because their landlord, their property is public, their listing is public, and so their profile is public. And probably the exception is to not show their name, right? But their profile as a landlord, as in the owner of this property, not necessarily, Faustinius Davis, owner of this property, but the owner, the landlord, the current landlord of this property, as of this date, this is their profile. And any tenant that has an account can see that profile information, right? And that's perfectly understandable and legitimate, unless you're a slumlord and you want to hide, in which case people are going to still give a review on the property anyway. But now the other way around, where a landlord wants to see a tenant's profile, for me, I think there are some security concerns with that, and privacy concerns as well. And a landlord should have a reason to see a tenant's profile. So we tossed around a few different scenarios and ideas. One was, well, the tenants can decide they want to give their profile to anybody, right? And anybody, whether it be landlord or otherwise, can view their profile information. And there's some legitimate reasons for that, in case a tenant may be subletting or a tenant might legitimately need to share their account with somebody else, not from a social platform perspective, but
Yeah.
from, any other reason that we can't think about right now.
Okay.
The con for that is that we could possibly creating a subletting capability where a tenant can view another tenant and they may want to sublet to, which is legitimate, but a landlord may explicitly prohibit subletting. Right?
Yeah, I know the market that I'm in right now. Yeah, it's usually prohibited for subleasing.
Okay.
Yeah, not too many landlords are okay with that because that's more money on sewage, just the wear and tear of the house and all that stuff like that. So, yeah.
Everybody has to be on the lease, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So usually what we do in that market is whoever signed on the lease, if it's dependents that you can also list on the lease, those are the people that are supposed to be occupying the property. Yeah, the subleasing is always a no-no.
Okay. Okay. All right. So that leads us to another piece, which we're going to leave to V2, is that when the rental application piece is implemented, then that application itself becomes the reason for the landlord to see the tenant's reviews, right?
Yes.
So for now, we were saying that the tenant can, if a tenant creates an account, the tenant can give the landlord access to their account, or the tenant can make their profile public to all landlords.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Now, so is there a case where you can think of where a landlord wants to view a tenant's profile, but the tenant is saying, no, I'm not allowing you to see my profile?
Well, in a scenario when it comes to that, to be honest with you, I think the tenant would be more obliged to show their profile, especially if CLEPT becomes like a big household applications that landlords are going to be relying on. If a tenant is showing reservations when it comes to their CLEPT review, I mean, they got to look at it like this: if they're not willing to show their profile so that they can get it's like an additional background check. Someone goes for an apartment, they're not going to tell the landlord, I'm not doing a background check, because the landlord is going to be like, all right, well, we're just going to go move forward with someone who's willing to show all of that information. I think you should definitely leave it in the hands of the tenant to give permission. And in doing so, if they are trying to lease from a landlord who's requiring it, I mean, it could be a requirement from the landlord standpoint, because at the end of the day, this platform is made for those who landlords, I'm talking about from the landlord's perspective, landlords who are basically getting applicants that is an additional background check. So they're going to request the same way they request for background check, they're going to request for CLEPT review.
All right. So is it fair to say this then, that if a tenant has a profile on CLEPT, that the landlord will know, but they'll know whether it's public or private?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Did I write this correctly? But tenant has a review on CLEPT, the landlord will be able to see that they have a review, whether or not they have permission to view the review. Okay. All right, so I think that covers
Mhm.
that piece. So then the other piece is we're talking about when the account is created,
Mhm.
right? Because we're looking for tenants that are circumventing the system. It's easier for
Mhm.
tenants to create a separate profile than for a landlord, right? Because the landlord
Okay.
has to literally create a separate property because the review is with the property
The
and the
property,
landlord
yeah.
together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just the landlord by themselves or the property by themselves. So the
Mhm.
question here is,
Mhm.
when they create an account, here, I want to be able to create an account using my email address. There are a few ways that you can do this programmatically. There are some validation APIs that can be used, but is there any other way that you can think of that we can use to verify that that person is that person and nobody else? So even if they have 10 different email addresses, it's the same
Mhm.
person.
Can we do social media integration? I mean, obviously you can make multiple social media accounts.
Yeah, that. Yeah, you can do a
Yeah.
ton of those. So that would
Um,
work.
hmm. Uh, so the three-step photo upload when it comes to ID.
That's what Uber does. You upload an
Yeah,
ID
yeah,
and you verify it.
yeah. That's where I got that idea from, because they require you to give you 3 forms of identification. Um, so, well, not everyone drives, so I can't say registration.
Well, you can
Um,
say ID, passport, or state ID.
yeah, yeah, passport, state ID could be one, and the second one could be the letterhead that you can verify as well. So
Oh, a bill.
a bill, yeah. I mean, the more uploads that you have. Okay, hold on one second. I'm sorry, hold on one second. Just hold on one second.
Okay.
All right, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so the more files you can upload, I think that creates more of a security blanket, or a more detailed verification that this person is this person. So that's the two things. Yeah, ID, passport, and then the letterhead.
So any would do, or all of them, or two? Any two?
Two, yeah, any two.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, another system does this as well. Give me any two. Uber does that, right? Is it Uber that does it? Give me
Uber does it. Uber, Lyft, and all DoorDash, all the food delivery companies do that. They need an ID, copy of an insurance, copy of registration. Those 3 things that they have.
Okay. All right. So the thing is with the utility bill, it doesn't have it just has a name. It doesn't have a picture. Well, they're going to utility bill and something else. Okay, so
And
that's fine.
something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it would never be by itself. Okay.
Uh,
All right. All right, team. So based on the questions, based on what I said to Frosty, did I miss anything? Does it answer some of the questions that you had? No, Ituno, Quinnet, Daniel.
Did you see it clear over there?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, Daniel, Ituno, still there?
Yeah, I'm clear on that.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Think with us, Daniel. All right. And yeah, this ID piece. So once we have this piece, we're sure we know who this person is. So just let's keep in mind, if I don't remember, when we look at the data model, that even if a person uses multiple email addresses to create a new account, we have to be able to stop them like, you already have an account, but they may legitimately need to change their email address. So we may have to use a login, not with just an email address, but also with a user ID.
User ID, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of, don't really like that, but
Mhm.
Like actual wash, like how they have lights off wood. You still have that. I was just calling. I don't. We just kept saying.
Kino, I don't exactly get what you're talking about with this.
with this piece here. So one of the cornerstones for establishing trust is to know that you're Ituno, I am Kino, right? And I think what Daniel was saying, or even Quinette, was, if a person creates another profile, just so that their bad history doesn't show up. We need to prevent that from happening. And so to prevent that from happening, when someone creates an account, we need to be able to say, irrespective of what email address you're using, we want to know who you are for real. And this way here, the two forms of ID is a way that some of the other systems like Uber and DoorDash and so forth uses to validate people. Another way there's, and this is again, US context, and another way is a validation API. I've seen it before, like, cannabis is now popular among different states. And there are few, you have to verify that you are you, specifically because you have to be 21, right? And over. And so these APIs do age verification and things like that. So I've seen it before. But that might be a bit more involved in that we're gonna have to do some research on connecting with that API. So that's why I kicked that to a V2. This one is a manual process. All we have to do from a software perspective is allow them to upload the two documents, and then the admin on CLEPT will say approved or not approved.
The one what I'm actually asking about is the third one you're typing.
Oh, so with this one, so let's say we have Obina, we keep Obina as our example, right? So with Obina creates an account, and best case scenario, right? Obina is honest. Obina creates an account. Obina, his account gets hacked, or he uses school account and he graduates and he no longer is using his school email address anymore, and he wants to use another email address. So right now, our system doesn't allow you to change your email address. And so what Obina would have had to do is to create another account. But when it does the verification, it's going to say you already have an account on the system. So what I'm trying to answer here in this third bullet is, what do we do in that scenario? In that scenario, if we didn't have the email address as the login and we had a user ID, so Obina, right, then we wouldn't have had the problem. He can just change his email address, or we do something else. So I'm trying to address the something else here. I didn't finish typing it, but yeah, I can use help with that, something else.
Yeah, so Kino, two things. Why are we even starting with the user can't change the email address?
No, that's not a stipulation. That's just how we have it right now. Yeah, that's not
okay. Then I think that should be possible. We should allow the user to change their email address. And if we're looking at doing that, you can go with the GitHub approach, for example. You can easily change it, and then it still becomes the way of identifying.
All right. So walk me through the scenario. So you created an account. For whatever reason, you can't use your old email address anymore, and you're going to log in again. What would we say? Would we say use text to verify that you are who you are, to change your email address? How would we do that?
Okay, you said for some reason you cannot log in again with your
Email address.
email address.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at the GitHub approach because that's basically okay, but GitHub has a username.
GitHub user username. Yeah.
Okay, all right, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And actually, we could allow both, right? The username and the email address. If you forget your
All right,
email,
can I interject one thing? I
Yeah.
know a lot of platforms only allow you to change it once. I know when it comes to username and especially username, you're only allowed to change it once. Would that prevent any type of duplicate account if they can just change their username once and then no, it won't
No,
do that.
because let's say it's just someone who is just not very wise security wise, from a security perspective, internet security, they're not wise. And so, they keep using their password can be easily social engineered, and their account keep getting taken over, So they may need it to do more than once. But I think what Ituna and I just said, if we allow them to have both a username and an email address, then they can, like what GitHub does, they can log in using either or.
Yeah.
Kino, I think some of these details can actually go into version 2. For example, I think an email is sufficient for version 1. I don't know, I think so. Personal opinion.
I don't think it's a big lift though, because right now we can we don't generate code with username, but it's just a package. It's literally just adding that field for the username. That's a password. So I think we'll be fine. I don't think it'll be a huge lift for this one.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'm wrong, I owe you lunch. But yeah. All right. All right. All right. So I think this is kind of like one of the biggest nuts to crack. I think we're good. So now let's look at the flip side of things. Is the tenant can view the landlord ratings, right? And I need to use the same word consistently, rating and review. But here, the tenant will be able to rate the landlord. And it's the same thing again. So the same opposite, right? If the landlord does not have an account, then this whole same thing happens in the reverse for the landlord. All right. So any questions so far? Concrete, any other questions? All right. So then these next, this next one here has to just do with CRUDing categories, right? The whole rating categories. So as an admin, I won't be able to create, edit, delete rating categories. And hey, Paula, let's rename.
Yes, Kino.
Yeah, let's rename rating to reviews. Like, you just cast me that change while I'm doing it.
Rename ratings review.
Yeah,
Number 23.
There's rate and ratings, just change that to reviews. Yeah, so you can just probably just do that. Just that, just filter.
Change that label to ratings.
No. Wherever we see the word ratings, just change the word to review.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna skip rental, right, for now. So skipping rental, that's V2.
Kino, I see tag 1 and tag 2. What are those for, please?
I'm sorry, say that one?
I see tags 1 and tags 2. What are those? What are the
Oh,
meaning of those?
so remember I told you that this was a project we looked at some time ago? So we had actually scoped some of these stories, but this was before we had the feature to actually add scoping. So this was how this is what I used to communicate to Paula, you know, the weight for a particular Trello.
Oh, okay, that's clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Paula, you know, Paula is going through and changing all of them now, and we're going to rescope anyway. So some of these will change. Yeah. So thanks to Blossom, we now have Blossom, Dami, and Mary. We can now scope. All right. So V2, still V2. And V2. All right. So all rentals are gone. And oh, one more here. And one more here. Wow. We had a lot of stuff on rentals. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It was 15 stories on just rentals alone. Yeah, that would have certainly blown up our scope. Yeah, good call on that one, Atuna. All right, so the last piece we have is because we're not doing rentals for this version, it means then that messaging is no longer necessary for this version, right? Is that fair to say, Frosty?
That's correct. Yeah, messaging is not, because the messaging is to connect tenants to the landlord. So, if we're just strictly going on reviews, yeah, there's no need for messaging.
Give me a second. Sorry.
Yeah. So you got that?
Yeah, I heard
Yeah,
that.
because at the end of the day, you're basically, I'm putting them in a scenario where the tenant already met with the landlord and they're just viewing their review. So there's already a form of communication already. So there's no need for messaging. For if the only I think the only necessity, or I see the importance of messaging when you get to the whole listing property portion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So messaging is also V2. I think I just saw a new g.o.a.t.SaaS feature here. Select multiple user stories and add a label to all of them at the same time.
Oh, nice.
We should do that. Paula, jot that down for me, please.
Got it, Kina.
Okay. All right. So I think we have a bunch of V2s here. All the messaging, no reason for those. Monitoring, that's just Google Analytics and stuff. All right, ads. So let's look at ads. So aside from ads, just for the benefit, because you're going to add rentals and stuff like this later, having this as a free service, right, as you have it now, keeping it as a free service is a good idea, because one of the problems that that you're going to face is day one, you're going to have nothing on the system, right? The most you can have day one is you can upload properties, right? We can get a list of properties and addresses and we can just upload them. We can find that somewhere, right? The list of all the properties in Rhode Island or Providence, and we can upload that to the system day one. So you have properties you can find, but then you won't have any landlord information. So you can then go to your network and you can have them add their profile and them add their tenants, and have their good tenants add their information and all that stuff. So that's what day one. But you need more landlords to do this voluntarily. A landlord can't view a tenant profile unless they have an account. A tenant can't view a landlord profile unless they have an account. So, I mean, I suppose one of the things, I'll put it as a note so I don't do scope creep. One of the things that we could possibly even do is to say a tenant as part of their account creation piece is to put their history. Like you're creating like you're doing a credit check and ask your last addresses, where have you lived in the last year? List all the addresses you have lived in the last 12 months, something like that. So
in 12 months?
Yeah. Well, if it's be 2 years.
It'll probably be a couple of years,
In the past 2 years. All right, so I'm just gonna asterisk on that. That might come back up again. I don't know. All right. So with ads, so let's look at ads, see if this will, how straightforward or not this will be. So I don't know who is on the call, who is on the Must or Habitly project, but the ad platform is the same thing. So admin can create, edit, delete an ad, publish and unpublish an ad, view a report of the ad, view the details of an ad, and then everybody else can view the ad throughout the application. So that the logic is not new. And we actually have a pattern for doing this. So we can make this a stretch goal for us. But I think that we should, we'll be able to do this. At least you can generate revenue from ads. If nothing else, the AdSense. That's the simplest. You just drop in some. So from a design perspective, Connect, there are going to be two types of ads. One is the Google ads that will just show up, and the other one is the ads that we create. So Frosty, the question is there just going to be one box for ads, and both Google's AdSense and your ad share that box, or is it going to be two boxes for ads? One is Google AdSense and one is the ad that you create. Or do you just want to just pick one?
Yeah, I think I was going to go with one because I don't want too much of an ad-rich, application, because I've seen, in the past, and dealing with applications that have so many ads all over the place, it kind of can be a turn off.
Okay.
And it can also slow everything down. So I was thinking about going with AdSense.
Okay.
They have, I've seen on applications, they'll have it like at the bottom of the application, right above where you have like the tabs where it says user search and all that stuff. It'll be like right before the content. So it'll be that little menu at the bottom, and it'll be like a little thin AdSense ad choice bar, and then the content will be above it.
So if I'm looking at this screen here, Are you saying it will
Yeah.
be like somewhere up here on the screen?
All right, if you put your mouse down, you see where it says projects? So
Yeah.
this will be, that will be like your menu, right? So it'll be like, it will say like account, search, you know, just your menu for the application. Right above,
Let me show you. Wait, hold on 1 second. Let me show you another view of the screen
okay,
like that.
okay, all right,
Assume,
so now,
assume your screen looks something like this.
all right, so if the screen's like that, I would probably say if you have an AdSense on top of like CLEPT,
Up here
yeah,
as a banner or as a square?
as a banner,
As a banner ad up here. Okay.
yeah.
All right. And you wouldn't like it on the side as a square versus
Yeah,
at the-
we can do the square, like if it's in this format right here, you
yeah.
can definitely have the square right there as well.
Yeah. I guess the question for the designers is that the designers would be how in your face do you want the ads to be? Do you want it to be hidden, like really low key, or like really up there at top, or just make it flow naturally? You understand the question?
Yeah, hello, Kino.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think the the ad needs to be obvious. Yeah, up there, probably before majority of the content.
All right. Well, we roll with that. All right. I think.
Hello, can I come in, please?
Oh, go ahead, Saturday.
Okay, so if you're going by the Google Ads, I noticed Google Ads actually have sizes also. So even though it is up there, you get my point. It depends on the size of the ads banner that is being chosen. You get my point. So so the size of the banner, what I'm trying to say is that the size of banner ads actually will determine where it ought to be. Okay, so you really don't want to put something, a large banner at the top of a web page. It will actually occupy too much space and all that. So
Yeah, that was a question by my question. Yeah.
Ken, hold on 1 second. I gotta answer a question at work.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm here though.
So team, we've been on for over an hour and a half. You want to take a bio break and come back in at 10:30 my time, so on the 30. Anybody opposed to a bio break?
Kino, can I ask a question before we go?
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Okay. One question. The product they're working on, that's CLEPT. Is it a mobile application or a dashboard product?
Ask the question again. I'm sorry.
Okay, is it a mobile application or it's a dashboard product? It's a web product.
This will be both. This will be both.
Okay.
You design it mobile first.
Kino said mobile first.
Yeah. No, you all said mobile first. I'm just
No.
you all said. Yeah.
We didn't say it, Kino. We didn't say it though.
Of course. Connect back me up.
but-
What did you say?
Yeah, come on, yo.
You send it to them.
Said mobile
Send it to
concurrent.
them. Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry, say again.
Mobile concurrent.
Mobile concurrent. All right. Yes. I'm sorry. You corrected me the last time. Yes. Mobile concurrent. So it will be mobile concurrent. Yes. All right. Now I remember it. Mobile concurrent. Yes, Jeremiah. Sorry, I was wrong.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
All
I
right.
want to say something. Okay. I think we always mix this up, right? So I think Jerry's question, I just want to like get more clarity on this, right? So if you are building this, right? So it's not necessarily a dashboard, or is it? When we say dashboard, we mean things like what we've done for Habitly, Must, and the rest. Or are we going to build it just like the way Glassdoor, Yelp, and all of those things are? Like it's actually a website that you can just log into or like have an account, but it doesn't necessarily have that dashboard feel.
Correct. So this will not have that dashboard feel. I don't think if we had rentals, then we would need a dashboard. Yeah. So you can see how the rentals performing. That's like snapshot view. But other than that, I don't see the need for a dashboard. You tell me what you think the default page should be. But I think actually we had dashboard here. So I think we were thinking dashboard. But now that we don't have rental, I don't really see the need for a dashboard. If I'm wrong, then you guys decide.
I actually don't think it should be a dashboard.
Yeah. So we can pull that out during our quick break. I can put V2s on some of the screens as well, but I don't think, yes, but a home screen though, we will need a home screen. So it won't be like once you go to the platform, you see the list of properties and reviews, because we don't have all that much data yet. So it should have a home screen, then you will log in and you can do your stuff from there, where the first screen you see may be the list of properties, you know? Yeah.
Okay, I have questions to ask, but let's have our break and then we'll back on that.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break and we come back on the half an hour. Let me pause the record.
Where you go to Play Store or Apple Store to download?
Yes, to that answer. It will be on the Play Store and the Apple Store as well. And because we're using Meteor.js,
Okay.
do that. As long as we have the UI that's responsive. So when you think of mobile responsive, think of a small web screen is your actual phone screen. That's one way to just save, on that. Unless you think it's just a totally bad idea, then I defer to what you're saying. So yes, there will be an Android app, there will be an iPhone app, and the desktop web app as well.
So, sorry, Kino, let me ask. So will this mobile application, is it going to be version 2.0 or a 1.0?
1.0.
The mobile application itself, 1.0.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the web application, the mobile responsive, and the mobile application.
Well, so
like
from a design perspective, can you make the mobile responsive and the mobile application UI the same? If you can do it that way, then you'll skip a whole step. I'm hoping that you can find a way to do that from a design perspective. From a front-end development, they're going to be doing 2 sets, but from a back-end piece, it's not a whole lot of code change. Actually, I don't even think there's any code. We're not doing anything here that will need any significant code change. We're just going to add certain things that are needed for mobile, like the different icons that are needed for mobile, the icon for the app, and different, I think iPhone or whatever has a whole set of size icons that are needed to those. But we will upload it to the App Store. We will upload it to Google Play. I don't know if it will get approved in time. And if it doesn't, then we'll always use AirPlay, like we've done, thank goodness on the call we did with Brata, right? We can use AirPlay. Is it AirPlay? I'm sorry, not AirPlay. Test Flight. That's the app, Test Flight, so that folks can download the iPhone app until it's approved. And on Google Android, it's a lot easier. You just put it on the test side of the store, and that will be available. And then the web part will be available as well. And I think that would suffice. Cool.
Yeah.
Yes, cool. Okay, cool.
Right. So let's update this. Some of this was done ahead of time. So let's just make changes where needed. So we're looking at the profiles for all 3, right? This would be a reference for favorites. favorites list. Background check is V2. So if it's V2 data, we won't bother to deal with it right now, to store it right now. So let's just take it out. Yeah. Then we have the validation documents. So we're going to store an S3, right? Not Cloudinary for this. I am not able to see. There you go. And are we missing anything else for the profiles? Okay, so the property, and I'm not sure if the property should have a name. I think the address should suffice. So I don't remember who had asked the question, but here it is: address 12 zip city state. Website, I don't think it needs a website. I don't remember what we're thinking there. So this is the overall rating of the property. And I think Frosty had said we're doing it based on, you know, the bigger your house, the higher rating. So 1 through 5 or 0 through 4, right? 0 being a burning house, or you have a 4-story house. So we'll need icons for that. 1-story house, 2-story, 3-story, 4-story house. And the default value is, we should have no default value. Yeah, so minimum 1 to 5. So it's a number. And then here's the property information. So the landlord, that's a reference, of course. And I suppose we should have the current landlord. We don't care about past landlords, I suppose, right? So current landlord. Then other property stuff, square footage. So stuff that you see on Zillow, designers. So square footage, number of bedrooms, bathrooms. This decimal, because you can have 1.5 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, parking, pet-friendly pool, basement, has attic appliances. This list can be expanded in settings. Laundry, included utilities, HVAC, lat long, and the status. So it's so the status, it's it's either claimed, pending review, pending ownership change, and it could just be unclaimed, I suppose. And make this required. And the default will be unclaimed. All right, stop me for any questions. I'm just going. All right, so that's all the information for a property. So we're leaving rentals out for now. So I am going to, move it down. I'm going to delete it, but I want to clone this before I delete it. All right, so likewise showings. We don't need that right now. All right, so these are the ratings. So let's move up. We're not doing ads either, right? So we can move that up. Activity logs and change logs. You know what that is, right? So activity logs, viewed, change logs. This record was edited, so we know that information. These at the bottom we're not doing right now. Messages, we're also not doing that right now, so we can move that down as well. All right, so now that leaves user ratings, just the rating stuff. So let's put user ratings at top. So this is just, remember we said that they would be able to, they'll be able to CRUD the actual ratings. So the ratings, so it's a category. So it's a rating category. Oh, where did the rating category go? There's a rating category and then the value, and that's pretty much it. Maybe we should have an image and maybe a description. Go with it. Okay. And the rating categories. So category type. And position, because we're going to drag drop, right? So it's going to be like a list that you can order the list. I'm not quite sure why we need that. So I'm just going to take that off. So category name, category type. And all right, stop me from losing anybody. And of course, description. It's been required. Okay, so these are the categories and these are the actual ratings. Good. Let's make this required as well. And from a database perspective, categories are meaningless without the ratings. Well, no, we can make it CRUD. So this can be CRUD and that can be CRUD separately. Right, it's also accessible from the main menu. All right, so that covers the ratings, rating categories, and now the actual rating. So the tenant. So here we had where the tenant can rate the property separate from rating the landlord. We didn't have anything specific feature for that. So I probably should talk, we probably should talk to Frosty about, should we rate the property separate? Because you can always rate the property horrible, landlord is great, and vice versa. Yeah. So if we were rating the property, if we made that assumption, we were rating the property, it would be a reference. It would be a user rating, and there will be some comment to go with that. Same thing for landlord, would be a reference to the landlord profile. There would be some property that landlord is connected to, because landlord can have multiple properties, and some rating and a comment. Yeah, I'm assuming you can have a rating that's optional, so that's required, and that's also required. Good. And then landlord ratings, it's the same thing. So the actual tenant profile, whether it's a tenant account or a tenant, the property, the actual rating, required, and a comment. Do we miss anything with the data structure? I can't think of anything. We're not doing ads. we're doing AdSense, so that there's no database to be stored for that. That's just get the Google AdSense stuff and just drop that in and it's good to go. I'll move this up. I'll move this up here. All right. And we captured everything for reviews. We captured everything for ratings. Oh, we didn't say whether the property was claimed or not. So here, oh, no, we did. Because if we have the current landlord set up for the property, then it's claimed, right? So we can say if this is null, then null empty, then the property is not claimed. And this is required. Default. Right, any other questions? No. I think what we're showing here with g.o.a.t.SaaS is that, we spent a lot of time talking through this, spent literally an hour and a half going through this part here. And once we get, the different pieces a lot more clear, then everything kind of flows, after that. So just give you a second to just look over. All right. So let's now move down to what we think the screens may be. So based on what we're doing here, this first piece is free, right? So we won't have a pricing screen. Actually, let me just go clone this right now. And so I can delete stuff really. So my network is acting, I have so many things open down here.
Is that the TMG music list, Kino?
I don't know, that's who is this?
Who is that?
Ian, who's, I don't know whose last name is.
Someone's jamming. That's awesome.
Ian Jewel. Who's jamming? All right. So we're back. And we said we were going to delete some stuff here. So, and the reason why we're deleting it here and not the feature is because with the data model, that's what dictates the code that gets generated. So the features, it's not generating code. In a future version of g.o.a.t.SaaS, it will generate the test harness, the automated test harness, but for now it's not. So we can just leave that as is. Let's remove these. Okay, and then on screens, removing pricing because it's free for now. We said no dashboard right now. What was on the dashboard? Yeah, properties, rentals, reviews. Yeah, so no dashboard for now. Recording profiles, so list, add, upsert details, recording properties. We have rating, no messages for now, and no ads for now. So is Latte on the call? Latte, Quinette?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, so what do you think in terms of the screens? I know this is really compressed and we might change, but for now, are we good?
Yeah, I think for now.
All right.
Yeah, but I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how it's done. I don't know how it's done over there. It's supposed to be like targets, markets, but I want to know how are they like landlords? How are they going to be able to list their name, their properties? Are there like unique names for every property or for every building or something? So like Glassdoor, if I want to set up a company, I just have to put like the company's name. So the properties have names over there.
So good question. So I just deleted the name from this one, but properties, the address is unique to a property. Yeah. And the lat long is also unique to a property. Well, ish, right? So let's say you have a condo, that's a 3-family unit. So, here in Rhode Island, you have a 3-family house would be one, apartment on top of the other. And if that 3-family house is a condo, then it could be, 1, 2, 3 Main Street, apartment 1, apartment 2, apartment 3. They will have the same lat long because they're literally in the same place. However, their address too would be different. You have 1, 2, 3 Main Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02909, but address 2 would say apartment 1, apartment 2, apartment 3. So that's how you make it unique.
Yeah. Okay, so I think you might just have to like give us samples. So when we are like designing, you just name them.
You said you want a sample?
Appropriately. Yes, please.
Oh yeah, sure. Let's
maybe written out or something.
Let's go to Zillow. So here's a property on Zillow, right? So it has this is a house, 103 Jastrom Street, Providence, Rhode Island, right? So that's the address right there. That's the house information. Let me try and find a multifamily.
Keno,
Yes.
I think the name too can be unique because when I was searching for my own apartment, in like different apartment, different name.
Oh, I lost you.
That's the normal name, but they have like a separate name for each location that is there. As much as the address is unique, also the name too can also be unique. Because it's easy to like communicate to someone about, oh, I saw an apartment, or what's the name, rather than what's the address, because the address is obviously going to be too long. So the name too can also be unique.
Yeah. So, well, 2 questions. Well, comment and question. The address typically is not long. Like from a US perspective, it is pretty, I mean, it might be long, but it's segmented in such a way, that everybody knows address 1, city, state, zip. and address to. So it's programmed within just the user base. So if you're like in Costa Rica, on the other hand, that's way different. Someone will give you an address and they'll literally say 50 kilometers south of the Kentucky, you know, in Heredia or something like that. And that's legitimately the way people communicate, you know, in addition to the address. Lots of people just don't know the address. They know references. It's this far from this known location. But if we were to say, all right, let's go with what you're saying, and also add the name, because that's what we had originally. Who owns that name is the question.
Okay, I don't know who technically owns the name, but it's the apartments most times always have like a name, because most apartments, they do have a name, because when I was searching, you just have like a name. So there is like as National Landing as an apartment name. There is
Oh, you're talking
Monroe.
like an apartment complex will have
No,
a name.
oh yeah, an apartment complex, but and also an apartment name. But okay, if we're using apartment, most apartment have a name. But if you're not using court houses, that's when they don't really have a name. They
Yeah,
just have an address.
I stand corrected. So like apartment buildings like this will have a name. So like these are some of like the new high-end apartments in Providence. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, like if Quinnet lived in Providence, you live by 580 South Water, right? You know, to, you know, Lakey House, this would be Lakey House conversion for Quinnet. And so I'm making funny, Quinnet. So yes, there is a name in some cases, but in most cases, there is no name. So that would have to be an optional field because it's somebody's, it's a house, it's a 3-family house on a street, like this one that I was showing you. Like this one here. There's literally nobody will name that, you know, and it'll be who owns the name. Would it be the landlord?
Yeah.
Place a name, and the landlord can give their place a name. Then is it unique or not unique? But if you make it unique, then the landlord's like, well, that's what I call my place. For example, I live close to a college, Providence College, and there is a set of landlords, or one landlord. The company is called 02908, I think is the name of the company. And he actually names all his buildings because he treats it, he makes it, I mean, it was brilliant what he did from a marketing perspective. He pitched it almost like, because it's right next to the college, literally across the street, it's like you're living on campus, you know? So like how campus have dorm names, he named all his buildings. So someone like that would probably have a name. So I think I'm saying all that to say, I agree with you with the name, and we can just leave it, whoever owns it, names it. Yeah? Anybody disagree with that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Whoever owns it can name it. That's an option.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good one. Okay. Quinette, does this example suffice?
Yes, yes, it did.
Yeah. And so apartments.com actually probably maybe a better reference than Zillow. Is really a good example. It is very popular. It is probably one of the top apartment websites. You know, that's here. One of the things we don't have is pictures. I don't think that's necessary for V1. When we have the rental piece, we need pictures, but now we don't need it. Okay.
Oh, wait. So there are no images.
Hmm?
There are no images.
There are no images. Because do we need it? If I'm going there, I'm not going there to see what the apartment looks like. I'm not going to CLEPT to see what the apartment looks like. I'm going to CLEPT to see if I want to rent from this landlord.
So how do you leave reviews for a property?
Oh, I can't hear you. Say again.
How do you leave reviews for a property?
How do you leave reviews for the property if there are no pictures? Or you're saying, as I'm leaving the review, I'm taking pictures and leaving that with my review? Is that what you're?
Mm, 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 mm. That's like another angle to it actually. I was
Yeah,
thinking like maybe when like the property owners are like uploading their properties and all of that.
yeah. And you know, because you asked that
So
question about review property, I'm just going to take this out because we don't have a user story about reviewing the property. And that wasn't in the original scope. It was just reviewing the landlord and the landlord reviewing the tenant. I mean, do you see value in reviewing the property in addition to the landlord?
wait, I missed that. Sorry, what did you say?
So here, the data structure has the property reviews separate from the landlord reviews. And what I was saying, since in V1, we're not concerned with rentals, we're concerned with just the trust between the landlord and tenant. There may be no value in having a separate reviews ratings for the property, since we're just focused on the landlord, and the landlord is themselves connected to our property. So I was just going to delete this altogether.
You know, I think that became very valuable when you said something like, what if like it's a great apartment but doesn't have a great landlord, or what if like the landlord is a great person but the property is shitty?
Yeah. So remember, you're going to find the property here on apartments.com, right? So for version 1, you're not looking at CLEPT to find your property. So you found the property. All right, I want to live, 255 Promenade Street in Providence. This is where I want to live. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. Okay. Now I have the address. I'm going to go look up this address in CLEPT. And I want to go figure out what the landlord is all about.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You still
Well,
suffice?
no, it does actually.
It does? Okay.
So sorry, so practically the pictures that Queenette was referring to would have been viewed here on apartment.com before going to what's it called? CLEPT to make reviews, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. I mean, it would be a nice to have because hey, you have the pictures right here, but is there any business value in adding it now?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. And then this, looking at this brings up a whole nother piece that we missed. Well, not a whole nother piece, not that grave. The landlord might not be a person. The landlord might be a company. Yeah. So, because I'm sure, even though it may be a person that owns the company, the legal records might not have, OJ owning this property. It'll be OJ Inc. owning the property. Yeah. Sorry about that. So let's just add here. So I'm going to remove this. And for the profile, let's add company name. So even though an individual still owns the account and created the account, it's really the company. And this is not required. All right. Cool. Any other questions? All right, good stuff.
In the same vein, a company could want to rent.
A company could. Oh, I missed that, Ituno. Say that again.
I said in the same vein, a company could be a renter.
You are correct.
That's true.
A company can rent on behalf of its employee. That is true. So I guess I don't have to make this distinction then. It's property owned by an individual or companies that are. Yeah, that's a good one. Good catch. Sweet. All right. So we are somewhat, thanks, Paula. We are currently somewhat skewed on the pointing. I think some of these pointing may be a bit high. We don't need this pointing for the explicit purpose of completing what we're doing now, but we do want to have this data. Yeah. So
There are a few in there that are not pointed, Kino. I think we need to, right?
new ones we just added. Yeah, so let me move the monitoring up above V2. So we won't point V2 because that's not necessary. All right, make sure that's all V2. Okay. All right, I am going to pointing poker really quick. And so remember, I drop it in the chat. Remember, pointing poker is well, everybody's done pointing poker before, I think, right? 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. And we're doing 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 Fibonacci. All right, so like I said, when we're pointing something, right? So this story, so we're pointing it as full implementation, right? So it's done, UI is done, backend is done, tested, it's complete. Code is generated for this. So really the only majority of the work that needs to be done is just the front end type stuff. Yeah, so g.o.a.t.SaaS and AppCrowd will generate the code for pretty much everything in account management, with the exception of the things that need to be specific, like this. uploading other files. And in that case, there will be a, we just customize the code and the fields will be there, but everything else won't be there. All right, following so far? So let's be expeditious with our time. So let's not repoint these. Let me just, does anyone disagree with the two? Then we'll repoint it. All right, so as an admin, I want to be able to create, edit, archive, landlord, or tenant, or other admin accounts. Anyone disagree with the two? Don't be shy now. It's okay to disagree. Disagreement is good in this case, because when something doesn't feel right, then it spurs a conversation that, we fix things. All right. As an admin, I want to be able to delete an account that has no associated data. And so what does that associated data mean? Associated data means, properties, reviews. All right. Anybody disagree with the two? I kind of disagree with the two. If this is a two, then this certainly doesn't feel like a two. It feels a lot easier than a two, because literally once you update the UI, there is a bit of logic, I suppose. All right, never mind. I'll leave it alone. I'm on the fence. Anybody else on the fence with delete? When I look at it in comparison. Nope. All right. So then this one, I want to be able to view a list of users. So I think design team, the drill here. So, search. You have by name and filter by archived, unarchived. What else would filter by? Active, inactive, and by role. And we sort by name. Okay. Any changes on the two? Nope. All right. I want to be able to view the details of a user account. As an admin, I want to be able to view the details of any user account. Any changes on that? Nope. As an admin, I want to be able to toggle an account active, inactive. Nope. As a landlord or tenant, I want to be able to create an account using my email address. Yep, I do have something to say about this one. I think it's now more than a two, because it's not just out of the box code that's generated. When someone is creating an account, remember, we're going to check if their profile. So if a tenant is creating an account, we're going to check, do they match another landlord profile? Or if a landlord is creating an account, we're going to check if they match something else that a tenant had mentioned. So I think we should revote this one.
Kino, what do they use to do that match?
They would use, good question. Other than name, other than, what other fields we have? Address. Other than maybe the last 4 digits of some ID or the other, one of these IDs. Well, how would a landlord have something like that for a tenant? They won't. So last known address. So name and addresses would be what they would use for that match. Yeah. So if
that sounds kind of tricky, because
go ahead.
if you're matching an address, addresses could be spelled in different ways. Like I'm trying to just, I don't know. It's not something concrete or unique enough to like match.
Yeah. Well, what if we said that, you know how like with Authentify, when someone types an address, it gets validated with Google address, the Google API. What if we did that? So we're not leaving it up to them to just type.
Oh, I actually don't know what you're speaking about.
You know, like when you where was an art created and you start typing, you didn't implement that? You said where was an artwork created and you start typing the address for that artwork. It actually pings Google or geocoder cache to say, you know, what is this actual, you know, the proper spelling and name for this address.
Yeah, but you know, it still gives you the liberty to type what you want to type. Those are just like, it's just like auto suggest, and then you pick if you want or you decide to type yours.
Yeah. And so what if we don't allow that? There's still going to be a problem with address, because Google doesn't give you apartment number. It just gives you street address, right? It doesn't give you an address too.
I think, right, this enforcement should be in a different version. Currently, we can enforce based on like emails, but I think further enforcement based on some other interesting piece of data, those are going to be a lot more targeted and would have to be like more seriously thought out for you to be able to detect that, okay, this account is actually most probably this other account. I don't think it's something we can just do like that out of the blue. We need to actually dig deep to see what we are actually going to do about that. So I would suggest that shifts to V2. For now, we match just email addresses. Personal opinion.
Let me agree with you, because I can't think of a valid answer. So I'm going to add a note here. We need to determine how to match a new account against a new landlord tenant account against a landlord account added review. So if we stick with this, I just can't think of, I'm agreeing with you, to know I can't think of a way to solve this problem. But if we think a way to solve it, then we can do it. If we can't solve it, it means then that designers, the way that you show reviews, there has to be something to say, this review is for this person for sure, versus this review may be for this person, right? Because I can't think of a common Nigerian name, Obi, right? That's fairly common, yes, among some groups, right? So
exactly,
you know, you got a bunch of Obis, then you have to say, yep, for sure we know it's this Obi because everything matches. And then versus, yeah, it could be this Obi, right? So we just have to make that distinction. Yeah. Yeah, this is, I'm going to add even another mark for review on this one as well. Okay. So let's vote, because we don't want to vote for the hard way. So let's vote the easy way, which would be, it would have been auto-generated code, but now we have the additional piece of the username, which, yeah, in my opinion, it leaves it as a 2, because the auto-generation piece is like a 1. I'm assuming that the login screen is going to be templated, so it's not going to use what's out of the box. Does anybody disagree with the 2? Meaning to back end, front end folks. No? All right. So as a landlord or tenant, I want to be able to close my account. So if an account is closed, we're assuming for now reviews are not removed. Closing an account means that the user record is deleted. User and roles records are deleted. And we can say
deleted or archived.
Well, the other one is profiles that is deleted equals true.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember it's 3 records for every account, yeah? Profiles, users, and roles. All right, let's point this one. Unless there's any other questions with this.
Hi, can you please repost the link?
Oh, sure. I'll put it in the chat and I'll put it on Slack as well. All right. All right. Manuel, you gonna vote?
Okay.
All right. So it's a 2. All right, view the details of user profile. So this one here. Yep. So this is, we already have a view details for the admin. So this one here is specifically for the tenant and landlord seeing each other's information. And it's a 1. Ready to account for it up there. I don't think it should be any higher. Edit profile. Again, we have edit user account up top, so I don't think it should be any higher. Unless you disagree with me, we can vote it. All right, let's keep going. So upload properties via a CSV file. So what's the assumption here? So the properties, so CSV file would have the columns for the property, except the landlord information, right? So existing properties can be matched based on exact address. If a property is claimed, then it should not be updated. So there's an update, right? And so it will have all the information except the landlord information. So it's just a raw property upload. We've done this time and time again, uploading stuff. We don't have to do any column matching, so column names have to be exact. So columns can be in any order, but the names have to match. So Tunde, you had some questions on this for another project. Was it if stop uploading on errors, and state which row has the error. Yep. All right. If there are no questions on this, go ahead and vote. Daniel, did you vote? Nope, someone keeps clearing it. Don't clear, just vote. Goodness, vote again. All right, so it's 2.1, so that's a 3. And so this was voted a 5 initially. So this is a landlord manually adding a property that they own, yeah. But we're going to notify the admin via email because we have to maintain the integrity of the properties in the platform. Here's another way we can verify the property too, is US Postal. I forgot about this one because they actually have address too. So Google would not be the one to use, it will be US Postal. And it's a pretty straightforward REST API. Then we have, if the property is already on the system, then execute the claim story. I mean, we could just simplify it by just saying, hey, just upload your property. We do run the risk of having duplicate properties on the platform. So you want to at least do a match, an address match. If we're using the US Postal API. And yep, that's that. So currently it's a 5. I think that's accounting for the API work. So anybody wants to change the 5? Good. Going once, going twice. Right, sold for 5. Okay, so as a admin, I want to be able to delete a property that has no associated users and or data. So not claimed, no associated landlord or tenant, no rentals, no reviews. That's what no data means. That's a 2. Right, so I'm just going to keep going. Stop me if you want to change. So view a list of properties. And we have a search and a filter for a list of properties. Oh, we added name, right? So search based on address and name. And by address, I mean address 1, address 2, city, state, zip. Okay, any changes on this? Okay, so as a landlord, I want to be able to view the details of a property. Remember, when you're viewing the property details, you're viewing landlord, And you're viewing landlord reviews. Okay. So landlord wants to claim a property. So we have a whole listing process for that. They must have an account, the claim ownership, admin gets an email, everybody else gets an email. There's a manual process that occurs to ensure that this is yours. And that manual process, the next step is the admin change ownership of property. So anyone wants to change this from a 3? Right, I concur. This one, I don't think it's a 2 because I want to be able to change the owner for property. Literally, you're just going in to what the property screen and clicking on that drop down, select 2 drop down of owners, and you're typing in the new owner. You're the admin, right? So you are authorized and allowed to do this. You select it and you hit save. That's it. Right. So I think this is a 1. We can vote it if anybody strongly disagrees. All right. There's something about viewing the details of the property also. Landlord reviews, I was going to say differentiate. All right, where are we? So now we're at, again, favorites. It's literally, you're looking at a list of property, you're clicking on a heart, or you can be creative, another icon. It's either highlighted or not. It creates a record or it deletes the record. It's on a list. I hardly think it's a 2 compared to our other 2s. Does anybody disagree with that? And yes, this code is partly auto-generated as well. At least the screens for the list and the add, well, there doesn't need to be an add remove, but the screens for the list will be there. So I'm gonna reduce this to a 1. All right, so now we're going to rating. So admin can rate the tenant. So as an admin, I want to be able to rate tenants. This is a 3. Any objections? And we missed one. As a tenant, I want to be able to give my profile to specific landlords. Or landlords. Right, so this was to account for that piece that there's no point putting it all in one big story. All right, so let's vote on this one. So this is, as a tenant, I want to be able to give profile access to specific landlords or all landlords. Oop, just did the reveal. Daniel Lituno, did you guys vote? And still a 3. And then that's number 20. Let's scroll down here. We'll come back to that. We have to have something to capture that, right? We can capture it here. And we can create another object for it, but we can also just capture it here. It doesn't have to be a prioritized list. So we can simply just make that a list. So it is a list of references to, my brain is getting tired. What would we call it? Access privileges, access, authorizations.
Kino, where did you put this in profiles?
Yeah. Put it here as a list. What are you thinking? It could be a separate record. But it didn't seem to be anything, need to be anything more than array.
Authorizations is fine. Of course, we can easily adjust the name later on, but yeah, that's fine. And I think we should have this public field also.
Yes, yes. Yes. Required. Good one. All right, let's go back up to 20. And we're only going to 27. So we're almost done with this part. So as a landlord, I want to be able to view tenants' reviews once they have completed an application. Oh, we said we're changing this. To view tenants' reviews, period. So that simplifies that a lot. So a 2, I don't know if there's any objection to that. As a tenant, I want to be able to rate a landlord. That's a 3. Then I want to be able to view landlords' reviews. All right. It's also a 3. Tenant, I want to be able to view a landlord's reviews. Now this is a 2 and this is a 1. These are probably, oh, this one you need some validation. This one needs none. So that's fine.
Kino, sorry, quick question. Do we have a reviews table at the reviews collection?
Yeah, this one. These two. So here's the user reviews is the generic. This is what the review categories and ratings look like. And then the actual review itself is landlord reviews. Oh, doing this is sometimes tricky. Landlord reviews and tenant landlord reviews and landlord. This is confusing. This is the review landlord reviewing a tenant. So let's call that the landlord reviewing a tenant. Let's call that tenant reviews. Yeah, and then it's called the other one landlord reviews. Yeah. Yeah, so that's that. All right, so that's reviews. That's up. We're now at 22. So review a landlord, view a landlord reviews. So this one here is, as an admin, I want to be able to CRUD review categories. So there's no archive. Create, edit, view, delete. Yeah, and there's two pieces of this. There's a categories, and there is the actual user ratings. I know what you think about having, again, the separate categories. So this category here, it feels like this can be merged into the user reviews. Like, is it so the user review type. So is this for landlord? Only landlord can do this review, or both, or whatever. This seems to be the only thing here for the category. It's just a type. So why not just put that up here? Anyone disagree? I'm just saying I'm consolidating this into this. Right? And all right. Oh, and this is not done, so this has to be deleted. Okay. Back up again. So that's reviews. And then add in the ads, Google AdSense. I really don't think it's a 3. I'm pretty sure Google gives really simple code. Just copy and paste. Pretty, clear instructions, but I suppose there may be some research associated with this. Anybody disagree with the 3? Drop it down to a 2. Nope, so keep it a 3. Oh, did you all vote?
I think it's fine.
Fine. All right, cool. Then track user interactions and Google Analytics, that's a 1. Track user and interactions. We could use this as 2. There's another story here. This is tracking user interactions. If we're leaving it at 3, I'll just add both of them. Track all user interactions and database changes. I want to be able to have all user interactions and database changes. All right. So that is that. So we're all pointed. And let's look at our checklist. Let me just check really quick. So we said 1, discovery done, scoping done, Acceptance criteria, we're not going to do on the call. Wireframes, we're not doing on the call. It's doing wireframing, and will get back to us when we check in again later on. Acceptance criteria, we're going to work on that and check back in. Any diagrams in terms of like story flow, system flow, storyboard diagrams? It's a nice to have, but is this straightforward? You know, further add any more implementation detail. So from a designer, front end, back end, QA, do we need any sort of diagram to kind of illustrate flow?
Yes, I think we have to come up like a user.
Okay. All right, so our time is gone. And so I'll start that diagram and I'll share it with the team. And I'll have it by the time we have our next check-in. Okay, so just a user flow, that's good enough?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, cool beans. Anything else that we need? All right, ladies and gents, this is good. It's intense, I know. This is code extreme. I'm tired, we're all tired, but we can, you know, just 2 weeks. It's day one. 6 more days to go. We'll get this done. But I think this is pretty thorough. I would even say this is probably the most thorough discovery meeting we've ever had as a team. So yeah, let's get this all done today. By tomorrow, we can start coding this bad boy. All right. If there's nothing else, I guess we can say adieu until we talk again in a few.
Yeah, you know, one thing.
Hi, everyone.
All right. All right,
All
y'all.
right,
Hi, Kino.
All right.
Bye, you know,
Yeah,
bye.
bye.
Bye,
No. Please, I have a question before we go.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Philip.
So I just wanted to ask, like the design team starts working on like defining the styles.
Oh, the design questionnaire. I'll go send that to
Yeah.
him right now. Thank you, Quinnet. I
Okay.
totally forgot. Cool beans.
All right. So we'll be expecting so we can start defining our styles.
Yeah, you can make some assumptions because you know the kind of apps that it's kind of like, you know. So you can start.
Okay.
You can start with making those assumptions and just layer his stuff on top of that. Cool.
All right then. No problems. Yeah. Cool.
I do that right now.
Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome. All right.
Yeah. Bye bye.